3, where we're going to look at Christmas in America, Santa Claus, Christmas and culture. A lot of what we're doing this particular session is about Santa. So today, let's look at essential questions. Let's look at reading and viewing assignments, and then let's deep dive into those 2 assignments. We have our discussion, and we have our submitted assignment, and then we have the extra slides that are just about those full-term assignments on the ornament and the service project. So first things first, what kind of questions are we looking at this week? These help us sort of orient all of the ideas. Remember, assignments are always connected. We're not just randomly choosing them. They connect from discussion to assignment. So what we're going to be learning about in our readings are things about the unique historical development of the American Christmas celebration and that impact of Santa Claus on how we celebrate Christmas. And even though we're saying here the American Christmas celebration, please don't forget that Santa Claus is a lot older than that. Then we're going to look at other characters, so various peripheral characters and stories that surround Christmas. Then, how do we critique this contemporary cultural expression of Christmas? What sort of ideas is it showing and sharing with us? Then, how has the celebration of Christmas changed over the centuries? Do you see any continuity? So, as always, we're looking into the past, and then we're saying, well, what kind of things are we still doing, and why and how are those good and bad? So are there things we've stopped doing that maybe we could consider bringing back? Are there things that we are doing that maybe we could find better or stronger ways to explore them? Penultimately, what factors contributed to the merging of St. Nicholas Day with the Christmas Holy Day? So we start to see more of those pieces with Christmas and St. Nicholas. Finally, in what ways does the changing representation of Santa Claus reflect our developing cultural values? Obviously, we're going to have certain examples that we're going to look at as a class, but I think in the discussions especially, you'll find that we all have sort of maybe a bit of that sort of overall representation, but we also have specific things that we've done in our families and communities. So when we get there and we're talking about children and Santa Claus, I want to share what one of my friends did and that I had so much fun with how she approached it. When we're looking at reading and viewing this week, we have our 2 chapters from Forbes, chapters 4 and 5. I have just made a document and posted it to our student lounge of the church article and the more article. So obviously you can click on the poem for more, and you can click on this other link for Yes, Virginia, There's a Santa Claus, but I've also put them in a single PDF for you to read. And this week we're looking at Miracle on 34th Street, which is all about this idea of is there a Santa? We have 2 different versions that you can pick from. Pick the one that is easiest for you to get to, or if you happen to already have a favorite, then take that chance to watch it again. We have our Santa Claus and children discussion this week, just like all our other weeks of discussion. And then we're going to have a short paper about Christmas and Santa as we try to make some sense of the different things that we've seen and figure out, well, what do we personally think? So our big question for discussion is pretty basic. These extra points are down here below, but the single question that's for our discussion is, how should one answer a child when he or she asks if Santa Claus exists? You may find that there are quite a few answers for that. This is fairly individual. Even though we're going to look at the greater picture of sort of what communities do, you'll find that, Santa is part of many different celebrations around the world and has been for centuries. But what are people doing with that, and how are they sharing that? And the other side of this is that we often feel really strongly about our particular choice. I did not grow up with Santa because my mom felt really strongly that Santa was not part of the celebrations. I can see how she got that idea from her childhood and things like that, but also I enjoy the wonder and excitement and the celebratory anticipation of different holidays. And so, although I wasn't familiar with anything Santa as a child, there are a lot of ways to tackle it. So, as I mentioned, one of my friends had one of the cutest ways to explore the Santa idea. Her youngest was still in a space of enjoying sort of the magic and ideas and anticipation and wonder of it all. And her older boy was like, you know what? I think I'm old enough. I don't believe in the tooth fairy anymore. I'm good. I don't think Santa Claus is out there. And I didn't know what to do because, the kids were talking, and it's not my place. It's their family. It wasn't my family. It wasn't my space to say yes or no. And that's when my friend shared with her oldest that, well, that means he's ready, that it's time for him to know. And what she shared was that we each get to play that part of being Santa. And in that idea, we are that person who searches for what someone needs, something that will make them happy, those different steps to make the Christmas season and all seasons throughout their life really precious and to make people feel loved. And so now it was his turn to make sure his brother felt that love and that Santa was their mom, it was their dad, and it was their friends. It was all of us who love them and seek to bring them joy and love on them at any point during the year. And he got so excited to be part of that he was the person now, not just receiving that love, but giving that love. And that it was one way to approach that. So one way out of many to give and share love. And I loved being a part of that and helping him through that process as he got to be Santa as well. There are lots of ways to discuss that, lots of ways to handle how we want to approach it, and that is just one. So as you go into this, you may find that you believe very strongly about it and that someone else believes very strongly in a very different way. But I just want you to share exactly what you are thinking and experiencing so that we can all weigh through those different ideas and see how we explore it, because it is really interesting and I think exciting to see how everyone approaches it. Not having children, I have not had to make those decisions on whether or not they would know or not know Santa. So I love finding out what everyone is thinking. So then, after we've discussed that as a group and shared, what should we tell them? What should that look like? What could we say in terms of who Santa is? Then we're going to write a 1 to 2 page paper, and we are going to talk about having read the origins of Santa. We're going to discuss the merits. So there are 2 points we want to discuss: the merits of Santa, as well as the detrimental effects on a truly Christian celebration of Christmas. So how can we see what is good and what is bad about one particular idea? I think that's really important because when we look at, the title just left me, but I really enjoyed a cartoon movie. I love animated movies, films, and there were all these different, I think they were the Guardians. It's Guardian something. They had, the Tooth Fairy, and they had all these different characters that we think of, Asleep, and, all those different things, the Sandman. And they all had a purpose and a place. And I think sometimes it's interesting to see sort of how we help children process really big ideas when they are small. So your job is to write down, again, your ideas and compare and contrast those. So in looking at types of essays and that comparison and contrast idea, we're looking at the positive and negative, the merits and the detrimental effects. So our concept could be something along the lines of Santa can be both positive and negative because, and then share those 2 or 3 points that you want to focus on. For the 2 Miracle of 34th Streets, if you happen to have Disney Plus or Hulu, you have a subscription that will get you the 1994 copy. And then everywhere else, it looks like we're looking at $3.99 for either one. But remember, don't forget to check out your local libraries, ask around if anyone has a copy near you. Look for those options so that we're sharing and not necessarily having to purchase all of these. Finally, these last slides, I'm not going to go over them in detail, but they're here for you to have a look at. Remember that you're preparing your ornament for next week. Next week, you're going to tell me about your ornament, and then you're going to take that information you shared with me and do a shorter version as you share with everyone in the session 5 discussion. And those ornaments can look like a lot of different things. We can get out paper and color. We can cut that out. We don't have to do something really wild and intense. I often feel that there is sort of a chasm between those who feel they are crafty, they love to create, they love to play with all these different things, and those who don't. So I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, well, I do crafts, so I've got to really knock it out of the park. Or I don't do crafts, like maybe I'm not going to do a good enough job. Like, you are all going to do great. You just have to figure out what it looks like to you as you look at all of these different ideas. So have some fun. Unleash the fun, playful, messy side of life and explore. And finally, that service project. I'm having some great discussions, but this week I'm going to make sure that I have a note on everyone. So look for that email and that conversation. And if not, if you haven't already, don't hesitate to, you don't have to wait for me to message you. You can go ahead and message me as well. So let's get those conversations going on what all of these look like. There are truly so many possibilities. Some we can be face-to-face with everyone. Others we can contact them with letters, with emails, with all kinds of different things. There are so many ways to make people feel seen and heard, and we are open to exploring all of them. I love seeing what everyone comes up with. So let's have a lot of fun, and let's see the past and the present as we look at Santa and Christmas culture.